Looking for a designer quality finish for your necklines? Bias facing is the solution you've been seeking. In this tutorial, we'll walk you through the steps to sew bias facing, including how to incorporate additional elements like button loops, button backing, and straps, and how to finish your edge neatly. We'll be using bias tape made from a 3.5 centimeter wide strip of fabric. If you need a tutorial on how to create your own bias tape, you can find one linked below. While we recommend using interfacing for garment necklines, we've skipped it here to avoid the extra stitch line for demonstration purposes. We will, however, point out the step where you would trim back the interfacing if you were using it. We will be using a 0.6 centimeter or 1/4 inch seam allowance to finish our neckline. You might also notice some nail color switch ups during this tutorial. We like to keep it fun and fresh around here. To start, attach any garment elements like button backings, button loops, or straps. Make sure to sew these on in the reverse direction. They'll flip forward once the facing is sewn. Sew in place using a 0.3 centimeter or 1/8 inch holding seam. It's important to keep these stitches within the seam allowance. Unfold one edge of the bias tape and align it with the raw edge of the neckline, making sure the right sides are together, and pin in place. If your garment has a turning point, like this one in the demonstration, go ahead and mark that point on the wrong side of the bias tape. This way you'll know exactly where to pivot while sewing. If you need to, you can also make a small snip in the corner, but make sure you don't cut past the folded line where we'll be sewing. Also, be sure to sandwich any straps or alike between the facing and the garment. Leave about 1.5 centimeters or 3/8 inch of extra bias tape at the garment's end. This extra length is enough for finishing the edge neatly if needed, and also makes starting and ending your stitch line easier if you plan to leave the edges unfinished. Next, we're going to sew the bias to the neckline, using the folded line of the bias tape as a guide. This will be around 0.6 centimeters or 1/4 inch from the raw edge. Sew nice and slowly, remembering to pivot at the turning point if your garment has one. Once sewn, if your garment does have a turning point at the neckline, carefully snip a small V into the corner of the stitch line. This will help you achieve a neat turning point when you flip the bias tape. Be sure not to cut the fabric beyond that stitch line or snip the stitches. At this point, if you're using a neckline interfacing, you will want to trim it back close to the stitch line. You can see the facing also offers great stabilization for loops and straps. If you've added button loops, now is a great time to test that the buttons fit through the loops. Then you can trim any excess material from the loops or straps. Now we will move on to folding the bias tape. Begin with the wrong side of your garment facing up. Next, fold the bias tape over so the folded edge aligns with the stitched line enclosing the raw edges of the hem. Then fold it over once more to ensure the bias is completely concealed on the wrong side. Folding facing can take a little practice and patience, but once you get the hang of this technique, it does become quite meditative. Secure with as many pins as needed. At the V turning point, the bias should turn in a similar manner. The snipped V that you made earlier will help it sit nicely in place. You will notice any straps and loops magically flip to face the right direction. If you need to create a finish end for your bias, fold the 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 inch tail up so it's flush with the end of the garment. Then simply fold the bias as you have for the rest of the neckline. Once it looks good, pin in place. Before you proceed to sewing, give the pinned section a quick press. This will make sewing much easier as the facing will stay in place even when the pins are removed. Sew on the outside edge of the bias facing. If you're working with a finished edge, sew down towards it, and when you reach the folded end of the bias, backstitch before pivoting, then backstitching to secure your stitches. Once everything is sewn, give it a good press with your iron. And there you have it, a beautifully finished neckline using bias facing. If you love sewing, we've got something to help you plan out your creations, our awesome and awesomely free PDF sewing planner. Jot down your measurements, hack plans, and supplies for every project and add your fabric swatches and garment sketches. Use one of our 4 croquis models or sketch on the blank planner pages. It also includes a collection planner for organizing swatches and styling ideas for mini wardrobe collections and a 12-month sewing calendar. Get all your measurements sorted with our journal and step-by-step video tutorial, which walks you through how to take each measurement. Download your planner for free at madelabel.co/planner so you can get creative and plan out the wardrobe of your dreams.